Hello, parents of prospective children in Deborah's homeschooling co-op. My name is Eric Palmer. I am Deborah Palmer's husband, and I am the one that's going to be giving the introduction to econ. And I wanted to walk you through really quickly what it is we're going to be looking at. So share screen. Share the screen. So how the economy affects you, or in this case, your child, the econ class, which is actually actionable. This is not intended to be your ordinary, dry, dull, book-heavy econ class. So I warn you and I warn your children that if you're looking for a lecture heavy class discussing the merits and pitfalls of M1 versus M2 versus MZM versus L monetary money supplies, this is not the class for you. This is an actionable econ class because economic theory means very little for most adults and even less for teenagers. What this econ class will focus on is actionable, valuable, useful, applicable economic knowledge that I'm sure you've said, man, I wish I would have known X, Y, and Z when I was younger. Man, we would be in such a better economic position if I had known this in my teens or in my 20s. So this is a really quick walkthrough of what the class will entail. So the objective, by the end of this class, you will, or your child in this case, will have a greater understanding of the American economy. Greater than 90% or more of the adults who currently vote in elections, which further debase the currency they use to buy you things. You will understand and be able to explain the economic cycle, debased currency, fiat money, the law of supply and demand, the law of economics, and monetary velocity, just to name a few. But most importantly, you will be able to articulate how those terms affect you and your ability to provide for your future family. And then we discuss what the four major goals of the class are. One is to build an investment portfolio. Two, to debate natural versus civil economies and which is superior. Three, to create a financial success packet. And four, to understand money, inflation, debasement, and how they affect you. So build an investment portfolio. One of the keys here, and I'm sure you have said this at least in your own mind at one point in time, man, if I would have started investing earlier, man, if I put myself in a position to enjoy the blessings of compound interest in a basic 401k, a basic IRA. There are statistics coming out the ears that we will discuss. We're just taking $50 to $100 a month and placing in an investment account throughout your 20s will put you as a multimillionaire with your investment portfolio by the time you retire. Now, I am not an investment specialist. That's not my profession. And I don't want to even put the airs on that I'm some investment specialist. These are hard, fast rules of investing, and more importantly, enjoying the blessings, utilizing the blessings of compound interest, rather than putting money in a savings account where you're actually losing buying power through inflation. Let's have our children start investing so that they can prosper in their future and be in a position to not only take care of themselves and their family, but to be able to bless those around them. So that's the four major projects. Build an investment portfolio. We're going to have the great debate between natural versus civil economies, create their financial success packet, which we'll get into here in a minute, and understanding what money is, what inflation is, what debasement is, and how all of those economic concepts affect your children and their ability to get better jobs, to get bigger homes, and to take care of their family when they do have one. So success in class, what will it look like? Participation in group activities and group discussions is paramount. That is the single most important thing, being able to voice up an opinion and have a discussion. I do believe that the more conversation that is occurring, the more people are learning. I do not want to be Bueller up front lecturing. That does not that does not cater to having lessons sink into our children's minds. Two, be vocal in debates. So these are different from discussions. We are actually going to have structured, timed debates. So be vocal in those debates. Create your financial success project. Again, we'll get into that here shortly. Create your investment portfolio, what we briefly discussed in the previous slide. And there is one 3-page report that we'll discuss here in a moment. So those are, if they can do those 5 things, they will absolutely succeed in this class. How will the class actually look? How will it be broken up? The first 10 minutes of the class is a classroom review. You hear something once, you learn through repetition. So we'll continually discuss the concepts that we learned in previous sessions, in previous classes. Then we'll have 15 minutes approximately to have a lesson activity. You learn more through engagement, especially when you're young. When you're listening to it, you're speaking about it, and you're touching it, you're going to learn far more than just sitting there reading a book or sitting there listening to this boomer give you a lecture. There will be a 20-minute lesson where we master the base understanding, placing your child far ahead of their peers. Most kids, and I'm not sure if this speaks to you or not, but even most adults, when they get on their own, they are completely financially lost. They have no idea how to take care of themselves. So we will have lessons to master applicable economic principles. And then 5 minutes at the end of each class for project prep. And we discussed the 4 projects 2 slides ago. So we will continually during each class make sure that each student is fully aware of the project that is coming and be able to have the tools necessary to, as the graph shows, succeed in the end. Homework. The only official homework for this class will be the 3-page report where they answer the question, what happened to penny candy? Now, you may be too young to remember this. I certainly don't remember penny candy, but our grandparents certainly did, where you'd go in and get a piece of candy for a penny. I want them to be able to articulate why there is no such thing as penny candy anymore. This will serve them in the future when they're adults voting or when they're having economic discussions where we frankly, as Americans, like to play the victims. Oh, well, the corporations are driving. Oh, well, the government is driving. But we don't know why or how, what is happening, why a movie ticket is no longer 50 cents, why it's now you're spending $20 or more at the movie theater. So I want them to be able to articulate near the end of the class whatever happened to penny candy. Otherwise, classroom activity and discussion will take care of all the education. There will be no additional homework unless you have a rock star of a child and they absolutely want to crush the opposition during debate and they want to do a little outside of class additional study. So what will each of those 4 sections actually look like? Section 1 focuses on building your future, taking advantage of compound interest. Some of the lessons in section 1 include how financial illiteracy affects you. We need the children to get buy-in. If you don't see how something affects you, it's just some outward lesson. I want to make sure your children understand just how important it is to understand the basics of finance and how much it will bless them in the future. Again, if I would have known just a fraction of what we're going to be discussing in this class, if I knew a fraction of that at 17, I would be in a much different position now currently as an adult in my life. We're going to discuss trans to alpha. We're going to discuss the natural law of economies. How did inflation happen? And more importantly, how does it affect me, or in your case, your children? Compound interest, it's like fire. It's a blessing and a curse. We're going to discuss the time value of money and, of course, building the custodial investment account. And that's what's important here. The children that are under 18 cannot legally have their own account. The only way that they will be able to set this account is with your blessing. You need to be the custodian of this account, and whether they want to take it over or whether you would like them to take it over at 18 or 20 or 21 or 25 or when they're married, when they return from their mission, that's a discussion you can have with your child. Right now, we're just talking about building that custodial account, getting it funded so they can start to experience what it is to invest in their own future. Section 2, we're going to focus on what is capitalism? Is it moral? And is America truly a capitalist country? Some of those lessons will include natural law economies versus civil law economies, where we're really going to dive in and discuss the differences between these two megalithic trains of thought when it comes to economies and how they affect the country and its prosperity historically and today. We are going to discuss the Rule of 72. The Rule of 72, if nothing else, I want your students to get the Rule of 72 in their mind. If they get nothing else but the Rule of 72, this class has been a success. The Rule of 72 is a simple rule used to approximate the number of years before you, i.e. they, double their investment, or before an investment is doubled against you. We're also going to discuss wages, prices, and spirals. Oh my, which is actually a very prevalent conversation for what's going on in the news right now. We're going to discuss the 178 years of recessions and what's the unifying aspect that has led to every recession within the last 178 years. We are going to create they are going to create their proper financial protection package, or they're going to discuss creating proper financial protection. We're going to talk about monetary velocity, and I promise it's not as boring as that sounds. And we're going to discuss fast money, faster crashes, what led to the Roaring 20s and the Roaring 90s. Whether we call it the Roaring 90s or not, it was the same thing. We're going to discuss what led to those Roaring 20s and 90s, what we can learn from those 2 decades, because we will have another roaring decade. It's going to happen. It may not be in your and my lifetime, but it's going to happen. Section 3, we're going to focus on personalizing their financial success roadmap. We are going to discuss how you create, and they're actually going to create their emergency fund. They're going to create a debt management plan for their growth, not the banks and not the credit card companies. We're going to talk about entrepreneurship as a way to increase their personal cash flow. Right now, whether they're working for somebody in their teens or not, how can they work on increasing their cash flow, and what can they do now to place themselves in a better position through their 20s, 30s, and 40s to increase their cash flow. We're going to talk about protecting their wealth through wills and trusts. Now, of course, they won't be setting one up, but we're going to discuss the importances of these documents and how they are utilitarian to protecting our wealth. We're going to discuss health directives and HIPAA as far as protecting our wealth. We're going to really dig in and discuss how bad the current economy is, how shaky the ground is, and we're going to discuss the unknown shakeout. If you don't know about the unknown shakeout, I invite you to come to that class. It's a hoot. And lastly, section 4, putting it all together. This is where we start taking all of the concepts that we learned in the previous lessons, and we start putting them together to answer the following questions. How did America get here? Is capitalism moral? Why or why not? Note that capitalism is moral, but each child should be able to make up their own mind and be able to, more importantly than make up their mind, articulate and defend their position. What are the effects of the legal systems and systems analysis? So when we talk about civil versus natural economies, well, that directly affects natural versus civil legal systems, and vice versa. These things affect one another greatly. So we are going to go into a systems analysis and how that affects economies. We are going to discuss, finally, after now they understand what inflation is, the truth behind inflation. We are going to discuss natural versus civil economies and have the great debate on that aspect. We are going to have them discuss their investment account status. For those students, with your blessing, who have set up their investment account, I do not want specifics. That is not important. What I want is when we discuss setting up basic investment accounts, I am going to advise that at least 80% of that is placed into the S&P. And again, this will be you as the parent have final say on this, but that 80% at least gets placed in the S&P with an average of an 8% return. So it will beat inflation and build your children's wealth that way. And if they want to pick specific companies, that 20% of their portfolio goes to that aspect, if they want a little bit of a thrill. And again, that is with your blessing. And so we're going to discuss, hey, I have 80% in the S&P, and I decided that because Coca-Cola has been doing it so well throughout the entire COVID craziness and into this recession, historically, it's done very, very well. I'm putting money into Coca-Cola. And then I found that Black Rifle is a great emerging company. Right now, the stocks are down, but it does have a probability of increasing greatly. So that's a little bit more of my volatile, my risky investment, but I have 5% of my portfolio to play around with that. And then lastly, whatever happened to penny candy? This is the culmination of everything that this class will go into, understanding what has actually happened over the last 178 years, and even before that, but especially the last 178 years, how that affects personally, specifically, and individually your child and their ability to provide for their future family. Again, this class will be action orientated. It's not going to be super heavy on economic theory. We are going to discuss economic theory because it is important to have a grasp and understanding, but we're not going to go into the mathematic formulas because, again, most adults will never use that information, and most teenagers could care less. So rather than filling their heads with information that they don't want and are going to promptly forget, let's fill their head with the information that you and I wish we would have had and wish we would have actioned or made action upon in our teens, in our 20s, in our 30s, rather than waiting until our 30s and 40s to start building for retirement, waiting into our 30s and 40s to understand how compound interest is working against us every time we purchase a car, every time we purchase a house. Let's give our children the education we wish we had. And that's what this class is. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, by all means, please feel free to call me or text me. My personal number is 435-628-27. Oh, pardon, that's my work number. 435-669-0129. My personal number again, 435-669-0129. Once again, my name is Eric Palmer. I am the husband to Deborah Palmer, one of the co-founders of the homeschooling co-op that your child is in. Again, any questions, feel free to text me, call me, and I look forward to entertaining and educating your child.